it turns out that this notion of some of us having more willpower than others may not actually be quite accurate. And that's probably good news for the do to be, crowd out there. Like, you will just try harder. Gotta love you more. It's like, turns out, we all have willpower. It's just that it's not unlimited. And after making many decisions in a day, our resolve weakens and it gets harder and harder to make wise decisions. We either begin to choose sort of a default mode and take the path of least resistance, right? I think that's where a lot of us go.
Yeah.
Or we'll just do nothing. Each successive decision that we're faced with receives less of our, quote, willpower and can begin to feel like an annoyance as we experience real emotional fatigue.
Huh.
You ever feel this way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so all of this has led me to pay closer attention to my own emotions and countenance and decisions as the day and my load of decision-making kind of wears on.
Welcome to the Everyday Disciple podcast, where you'll learn how to live with greater intentionality and an integrated faith that naturally fits into every area of life. In other words, discipleship as a lifestyle. This is the stuff your parents, pastors, and seminary professors probably forgot to tell you. And now, here's your host, Caesar Kalinowski.
Heath, you've not made a bad decision to be here today.
Not yet.
No, not yet. And nor have our listeners. This is going to be a cool episode.
Yeah.
And what an intro, right? Why we make so many bad decisions. But,
Hey, before we get into it, I want to just give a shout out to people that have been rocking Facebook.
Oh, man, please.
Yeah.
Our Facebook group's starting to get fun.
Yeah, it's starting to get super cool. So all you got to do is go to Facebook and in the search bar, type in Everyday Disciple Podcast. We will pop up and then Caesar and I will approve you to the group. And you get to stay part of the group until you start trolling. And then we'll kick you out. But until then, come join the discussion. Lots of fun over there.
Great.
So thanks for your comments.
All right. Thanks for doing that. I love giving the shout outs and I love the encouragement that we're getting from everybody out there. Hey, today we're going to talk about something. Here's a brand new thing called decision fatigue.
Okay.
Maybe our listeners have heard of that term, maybe not. I just want to ask, do you ever feel like if you have to answer one more question today or make another decision, your head's going to pop off?
Oh, yeah.
A
lot.
I know, when my kids were little, and my mom even said to me, honey, I hope someday, when I was little, I remember her saying, hope someday you'll have a son just like you that just asks questions all day long.
Yeah.
And then I did. Thanks, Ma. But but some of that's tied to what's sort of called decision fatigue, actually.
Yeah. So let's get into the history of that. Why don't you give us the definition of decision fatigue, where it came from, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, and I find this fascinating, okay, by the way. So this might seem like a weird topic for some of our listeners. Stick with me. It's going to be great, and you're going to see how it all ties in with our beliefs and the gospel. So there's this author and science editor for the New York Times, John Tierney, and he's written about this extensively, okay? And it's got it's a steep read, but it's called Willpower, Rediscovering the Greatest Human Strength.
Okay.
And I don't necessarily agree with everything in that book, but check this out. He says, decision fatigue helps explain why ordinary, sensible people get angry at colleagues and families. They splurge on clothes. They'll buy junk food at the supermarket, and they can't resist the dealer's offer to rust-proof their new car. No matter how rational and high-minded you try to be, you can't make decision after decision without paying a biological price.
Wow. So how would you, in hearing that, how would you say what would be the difference between willpower and decision fatigue?
Okay, good. Yeah, that's a good way of asking it. Well, it turns out that this notion of some of us having more willpower than others may not actually be quite accurate. And that's probably good news for the do to be, crowd out there. Like, you will just try harder. Gotta love you more. It's like, turns out, we all have willpower. It's just that it's not unlimited. And after making many decisions in a day, our resolve weakens and it gets harder and harder to make wise decisions. We either begin to choose sort of a default mode and take the path of least resistance, right? I think that's where a lot of us go.
Yeah.
Or we'll just do nothing. Each successive decision that we're faced with receives less of our, quote, willpower and can begin to feel like an annoyance as we experience real emotional fatigue.
Huh.
You see,
Yeah, I see
you ever feel this way?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so all of this has led me to pay closer attention to my own emotions and countenance and decisions as the day and my load of decision-making kind of wears on.
Sure.
Am I less nice and harsher with coworkers or subordinates as it gets later in the day?
Yep.
And I've been required to make a ton of decisions, right?
Yeah.
Are my spouse and or my children receiving my most gracious, patient attention and decision making after I come home from work? Or do they at times feel like they're an add-on to my day or a distraction?
Wow.
And just one more decision that I've got to weigh in on and give approval or blessing to. We need to figure this out. I can remember, too many times, just being honest, Heath, too many times where people said to me, man, you were a little curt there, or that, I didn't feel the love on that answer, bro.
Sure.
And here's what it was. And this is why I started digging into this. It's like, well, I feel like I had to answer, 1,000, I had to make 1,000 decisions today. And so what you just experienced was getting 1/1000th of my time, attention, and affection.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel good, does it?
Yep. How do you expect that to feel? Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But that's what decision fatigue is as the day wears on, we're not actually built or wired to be on and on and on and on and weighing good and bad and right and wrong and evil for ourselves all day long and for others.
Yep.
And for work and for kids. And think about a lot of our decisions that we have to make in the back of our head. We're like, oh, but if I decide wrongly, how's it going to affect how people view me? It's all wrapped up in that. And that wears on us throughout the day. It really does.
I remember being at Fred Meyer the other day, just in the ice cream aisle and looking at like 650 types of ice cream. And even that alone is just like, can you just give me one option?
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
In your own life, what does decision fatigue look like? Like in hearing that definition and kind of explanation, what is it? How does it crop up for you? What does it look like? What's it smell like?
Yeah. For me, a lot of times, and I selfishly will say, well, I'm a high capacity guy and I can think better. And I tend to try to give it excuses as to what I'm doing or the reason I'm doing it. For me, it's usually work stuff where it's like just meeting after meeting and trying to coordinate with new people. And then you get back and everything you've put your investment into, the direction's changed. So you need to re-meet about stuff. And then you get home and it's like, well, what do you want for dinner? What do you want as a side?
I don't make any decisions.
Yeah. And then kids are like, can we go on a walk? Can we go to get ice cream? Can we go here? Can we go here? And you're like, I'm tapped out. And so at the end of the night, I just, collapse and I sit in front
turns out it's a real thing.
Yeah, absolutely. For all of us.
Yeah. We're not wired to just, so, but the problem is like, I'm sure a lot of people listening, it's like, yeah, but I am required to make a ton of decisions throughout my day.
Yeah.
So then how does my family get the better part of that? Like, do I need to work late at night and just have the best part, in the morning or yeah.
So sometimes what I do is just, practically I just sit in the car for a few minutes before I even drive home, like a good 10 minutes. And I just sit in quiet and go, okay, as I drive home, I'm prepping to kind of clear my mind so that when I get home, they're not just getting, I'm not hanging up the phone as I'm walking in the front door and moving to the next thing. It's just quick detox.
Gotcha.
So how would you say, what are some significant points in our life that we could point to as being, marks of knowing that we're suffering from decision fatigue?
Well, okay, so I'm going to go to someone smarter than me to answer part of this, okay?
Okay.
There's a writer and a researcher on behavioral psychology. His name's James Clear.
Great name.
Clear, yeah.
Hey, James.
And he says this. He says, decision fatigue happens every day in everybody's life, okay? And if you have a particularly decision-heavy day at work, then you come home feeling drained, like what you were just saying, okay? And you might want to go to the gym and work out, but your brain would rather default to the easier decision, which is to sit on the couch. That's decision fatigue. That's what's going on. I really need to get to the gym, or I need to cut the grass tonight, or whatever it is, right? Got to get up and get some deer going. But because of decision fatigue, you just go, oh. Now we could say, well, you need more willpower, or that's just being selfish. But he's saying, no, that's decision fatigue kicking in. Same thing is true if you find it hard to muster up the willpower to work on your side business at night, or to cook and eat healthier meals. And while decision fatigue is something that we all deal with, there are a few ways that you can actually organize your day and your life, sort of design things to sort of master a better use of your, quote, willpower. Yeah. And so I think this has a lot to do with why many of us find it hard to stick with our plans, in any area of life, but even when it comes to making disciples. Various missional endeavors. We're planning to do all this cool stuff in our neighborhood and have all these people over, right? And we're going to start doing game nights and an open table and all. And so when people come home from work, decision fatigue like crazy, and they're like, maybe next week.
Yeah.
And it's not because we don't love people.
Yeah.
It's not because we don't know, wow, that would be really extending generosity and grace out there. It's because we are tapped on our willpower. It's like it's used up.
Sure.
You know?
Do you think this is something that's specific to the way we operate here in America? Like I had mentioned last week, I just got back from China. I was in Colombia a couple weeks before that. And it doesn't seem to be as pressing. I mean, there's just kind of this more chill mindset, and people are hanging out, and at night times when they get home, if they go to work, they're just sitting around having drinks and long dinners and conversation. Is that something that we as Americans really need to pay more attention to than others?
Well, I think from what I've experienced and traveled quite a bit, and also just from, what I've been reading on this from some of the experts, is that we all have it. It's to different degrees. In other words, our capacity for the ability to make those decisions, quote, willpower in that moment, to continue to make right decisions, the best decisions and all.
Sure.
It might be different, but yeah, I think in some cultures, their lives are just not packed with as many needs to make tons and tons of decisions. Here's a really weird, simple parallel.
Okay.
When Tina and I were living in Manhattan a couple years ago, we didn't own a car.
Huh.
And it was wonderful because think about all the decisions when it comes to maintaining a car and what kind of car and payments and repairs and insurance needs and like in the city, where to park and you got to move it. And then garbage is coming. So you got to move it to the other side of the street on Tuesdays and Thursdays and all this. That was all removed. And I remember when winter hit, and winter in New York is like winter.
Yeah, sure.
I remember thinking, I love winter, but I used to always hate winter. Why? Well, I grew up in Chicago, and all of the decisions I had to make to get my car unstuck, get the battery fired up and all, right? And so I just share that. It's kind of a weak analogy maybe, but it's to say that I think some cultures do have, just by the inherent nature of their pace and cultural types, they do have less decisions that need to get made every day.
Sure.
But they're still human, so they have probably similar capacities to us. But I don't think it's a new thing. I think that we can, because of our do-to-be culture, I think we can tend to say yes to too many things.
Sure.
That then we feel good when people give them to us because they trust us, a little bit of stroke, a little bit of a, upgrade in our status. And then now when it's on our plate, though, it starts to wear us down. That decision fatigue starts to kick in. And then our more important relationships, family, life, mission, discipleship, they suffer.
So, Caesar, what are some ways that moms and dads and pastors, leaders, all of us can manage decision fatigue in our life and move towards making better decisions?
Okay, good question. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do that again this week as part of the big three. Okay.
Okay.
I think these are the bomb on this particular topic,
Yep.
and they've really been helpful to me. So instead of saying them and then saying them again,
Yep.
I'm just going to go ahead and make them the big three.
Okay, so big three, like always, are the free download that we offer that will help you get started right away with things we want you to know, believe, tangible stuff you can latch onto today.
The three big things.
The three big things. You
Boom.
can get those by going to everydaydisciple.com/big three. So Caesar, the big three for this week, what are they?
Okay, so here's three things I learned from that article I was telling you about from James Clear that will help you reduce decision fatigue on a daily or even as a lifestyle basis, okay? And these are going to sound simple and obvious, but if you apply them, they're big. So first one of the big three, plan out routine decisions the night before. Okay? My father decided what he was going to wear the next day and laid it out the night before his entire adult life. Before he went to bed, it was always right there.
Wow.
And I never realized how smart that was. Daily routines and normal stuff that we all have to do can be planned out and calendar in advance. And then there's no decision. It's kind of like, who's the guy from Apple?
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, Steve Jobs. Duh. Steve Jobs wears the same thing every day. He did, right?
That's what people are on me about too.
And
Like
there's
almost
another
daily.
guy, there's another big, huge executive who wears the same thing every day. Why? He says, I don't want to put the emotional energy into those decisions. I've got bigger decisions to make.
Yep.
So even if it's one better decision, let me make it, right?
Yeah,
that was my
that's
dad.
great.
More examples. What am I going to eat for breakfast or lunch? Will I run this chore before or after work? What if you just took a minute, a few minutes every night and kind of planned out the day so you're not all that stress of decision making? Should I go here first?
Sure.
Right? What bills do I have to pay each month? Could they be automated? What about automating all that stuff? Right?
Yeah.
We get to nowadays.
So fortunate,
right?
yeah.
All of this can save valuable willpower that then you can use for more important decisions throughout your day. That's a simple one.
Yep.
But I'll tell you, it'll reduce the stress.
Absolutely.
Right? And I've talked about before, I kind of have like my ideal day, and it's a little bit of a map for my day. And when I stick to that, that reduces all kinds of time sort of management decisions for me. This is what I'm doing then. This is what I'm doing then. Great. And I'll tell you, you get to the end of the day and your heart's a little more open. You're a little able more to absorb that family decision making a little. Right?
That's so cool.
Second thing, block your time and start to calendar important things, not just meetings and all. So if you've ever wondered why you have not had success with certain things that you hope to get done, that could be related to decision fatigue. So instead of hoping each day that you'll make the right decision, get up early for the gym or write that book you've been going to work on or call your parents more often or whatever, make a commitment to the project and yourself by putting it in your calendar.
Huh.
And I haven't shared this a whole lot with people, but people are close to me who see my calendar know every day at 9:30, it says PFT. And I get a little reminder, PFT.
Pray for Tina.
Pray for Tina.
Oh.
And why do I do that? Well, not because I couldn't think of it on my own, but some days I wouldn't.
Sure.
And it's so important to me. I want to be consistently praying for my wife that I thought, you know what, wait a minute. I calendar all kinds of stuff every day, all week long, tons of it.
Yep.
And most of them, guess what? They're not as important as praying for my wife.
Yeah.
So I thought my own commitment to her and even just for myself, PFT, so it's in there.
That's great.
So here's some other stuff. Most of us place like a ton of important things in our calendars, right? But when it comes to personal things, we often dream more than we commit. So if we continue to lay back, hoping to make good and progressive decisions each day, then it's likely we're going to succumb to our decision fatigue and our kind of waning and failing willpower again and again. So make that commitment and calendar that stuff. Then it's off your load.
Yeah.
Decision made.
So cool.
Okay. Third, do the most important things that you have to do earlier in the day. What are the most important things you have to do tomorrow? Do you know what they are? Plan to do them first thing in the morning, if at all possible. So I usually wake up and I spend an hour or more answering emails right away, which is not the most important thing I have to do.
Yeah.
But I'm changing that. Like I said, I've started working out my ideal day. So who and or what needs your absolute best decision-making self? Give it to them first.
That's so good.
Right? Who or what needs your absolutely best decision-making self? Well, plan that then. Do those decisions then. You get to
right off the bat, yeah.
So some of our well-worn patterns and all this, Heath, take time to change,
Sure.
But like my answering emails, well, I'm not even out of bed, But a few tweaks to your intention and the rhythms of our lives can help reduce decision fatigue in our lives. And they have a pretty powerful effect on our joy and our effectiveness and others' perceptions of us too.
Yeah. And one thing Kathleen and I have just started working on that's been helpful is just this policy of keeping your cell phone out of the bedroom. So it's at nighttime we just go to bed and I'm like you said, doing emails or responding to Facebook events or I have to I have to
How does
text
that
this
tie
guy.
into decision fatigue?
It's like when you go to bed at night, the last thing you want is not to lay in bed right before you fall asleep making 50 decisions on
That's true.
texting this guy and I forgot to tell my boss that
Not to mention it probably cuts into the old romantic part of life.
Absolutely. So it's just been helpful for us. That's a big 4. I'll tag that one on there.
Yeah, and so point well made there. When you're kind of planning out your next day and some of the sort of just basic decisions and routines and all, don't do it laying in bed with your spouse. Before turn the TV off, give yourself 10 minutes, kind of look over your day, organize some of that, make some of those decisions. Boom, you start your next day kind of mapped out.
Yeah, it's great, dude. Time's up.
I hope that was helpful for people. This is not a topic that I hear discussed a lot.
Yeah.
But as I get busier and busier in life, I wanted to be able to understand why towards the end of the day in certain people and certain situations, I wasn't as full of grace or making as good a decisions as I might because I was sort of just defaulting like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
Who needs that, right? So I hope this will help.
Yeah, me too, man.
Thanks for joining us today. For more information on this show and to get loads of free discipleship resources, visit everydaydisciple.com. And remember, you really can live with the spiritual freedom and relational peace that Jesus promised every day.